Hello, hello. This is Aurelia Davis coming to you. It's been a minute, but I'm glad to be back. Just glad to see everybody. Aurelia Davis, the educator's educator, still doing what I do, having conversations with teachers and administrators about the children that they teach and the children that are being served in the education system and how we can give them the best program, which is very, very important. We're just coming to you on July 5th after celebrating my birthday on July 4th. Yes, yes, I celebrated another birthday. Those that know me, you know how old I am, but those that don't know me, just keep guessing. Just keep guessing. But I'm just so blessed to be here and still be in the land of the living. It's just an honor to be in this country, and continuing to do what I do best, which is being aware of the education of our children and how we basically pull together materials and resources so that our children can get the best education possible, the best education possible. Well, I'm still looking into things. Of course, we're in the midst of our summer throughout the country, and I'm sure that even now teachers are starting to just get back into the realm of what's going to be happening come into the next coming school year. Of course, politics play a heavy part in it, but we're going to try to just push that out of the way because when it comes down to it, our children are more important than anything else, more important than anything else. And if you as an educator have taken the time to just reflect on what was happening last year, you can basically sort of get a feel of what's going to be coming down the pike in the future, what's going to be happening in the future. But I ran across an article talking about does student behavior affect affect academic performance? I'll say that again. Does student behavior affect academic performance? Yes, it does. Wow. To this day, here we are in 2024, and we're still looking at children as being little people that we can turn off or turn on as far as academics is concerned, and that is not. Children are more emotional and have more feelings, and they're expressing their feelings more now than ever before. You can just look at a child's face and see that they may be going through some trauma. If that was not the case, why did we bring in social emotional learning? That sort of goes back to what we're trying to find out as to how it works and how to fix it. I'm going to be honest. In some ways, it's not going to ever be fixed. Some of our students are living in environments that they cannot control. And if they cannot control the environment where they live, then most likely they're coming back and bringing that particular environment and the frustrations of that environment, good or bad. It can be good, good environment or bad environment. But for them to just express themselves and how they feel about different things is coming out more now than it ever did come out before. And that's something that we need to be very, very aware of as we are teaching our students. So I'm going to be honest, it goes along the article did talk about students in the being in a poverty, being on poverty, the poverty level of some students. That gets into the inner city of some students. That gets into the rural environments of some students. Whether they're living on a farm or living in the city, something affects that child's emotional state. Something might affect that child's emotional state. Let's look at the last of the shootings that we've had in the schools and so on and so forth. So even the trauma of going into a school building and not feeling safe, of course, that's going to affect academic performance. That's going to affect academic performance. And it does not mean that a child has to be poor in order for them to be struggling. They do not have to be poor in order for them to be struggling. The environment that they're coming from, be it rich, poor, black, white, green, blue, or what, all of that has play a part in how a child performs academically in school. And so, as educators, I can't emphasize this enough. I got to the point while I was teaching that I could not execute a lesson without knowing my children, the children that are sitting in front of me. And so, of course, we're talking about classroom management. And so when the children came into the classroom, either late August or early September, I started managing and making an environment, a learning environment that they would be spending at least 6 hours a day in a learning environment. That environment eventually became non-threatening also. It became non-threatening also. We found as educators, a lot of veteran educators, we found that as children, as the years were going by, that a lot of our children were more what would you call it, active. That's the word I'm looking for. They were more active. They needed to get up, they needed to walk, they needed to roam, those types of things. And so when we were trying to keep them in their seats before, we found that that was not going to be productive. So we start working around their activities, their activeness in the classroom, their bodies being active. And I mean the activeness was from basically preschool all the way through high school. And we found that students were not satisfied just sitting in a chair and not doing anything. So you had to make your classroom that type of environment where they could get up and mingle. And as long as there were still some management styles in place that kept them, where that kept your classroom manageable, where you were able to keep your classroom manageable. But at the same time, those students were not sitting in those. Well, I grew up when we had the 6 rows across and about 7 seats back, and the chairs were bolted to the floor. And that's what we were expected to do. Different place, different time. These children are now in classrooms where some of them are not even sitting in chairs. Some of them may prefer to work on a rug or, with a pillow or whatever makes them comfortable to the point where they can accomplish the assignment that has been placed in front of them. That's what's more important than anything else. Going back to classroom management and even social emotional learning, we're finding that children you basically need to see what mindset the child is in. What mindset does the child have before you can even try to teach the child. More classes and more lessons are being structured around how do you feel? How are you feeling today? Do you feel like working? Are you upset about anything? Are you happy? What makes you happy? What makes you sad? Those types of things, because we're finding that if children are allowed to express themselves, and if they speak it verbally, then what ends up happening is that they can sort of put it out there to be tapped into and talked about before you turn around and ask them to write a composition. But if you don't find out exactly where their mindset is, if you don't find out how they're feeling on a particular day, how they're feeling, the morning may be totally different than the afternoon, but you have to find out exactly what they're feeling and how they feel about being in a classroom. We can't assume that they're coming from stable environments. We can't assume that they're coming from happy environments. We can't assume that they're coming from sad environments. What you get in that person coming into your classroom as they start to sit down. And a lot of times I got to the point where I was able to read my children's faces to see that they may not be in a good mood space at that particular time. And so what I did is I basically, I'm just going to be honest, I basically threw the lesson plan out the window and did something different. And there were full days when I basically had to work with my children's and my students' moods and how they were feeling. I had to work with their emotions for a day in order for them to feel safe, for them to feel that they had someone to talk to about how they were feeling or what is upsetting you. And that space had to be safe and it had to be private. So if there were some students that would come to talk to me privately, some things are happening at my house, I lost my grandmother, that type of thing. And then there were some things where children just talked to each other and shared information. And we're talking as early as at that time teaching first, second grade, but I'm sure they're even trying to do this now in preschool, preschool, kindergarten, first grade, and getting these children to express themselves so that they won't snap Okay, so they won't snap, because a lot of that is happening. A lot of that is happening. Called, a lot of disruptive behaviors are happening in the classrooms. We're talking about children throwing chairs and hitting walls and those types of things. This is not natural. It's not, and it is not safe, and it is something that has to be tapped into and dealt with immediately. And sometimes the resources in your building is not enough. Let me just put that out there again. Sometimes the resources in your building is not enough. Sometimes you have to establish a rapport with your students, the students that are sitting in front of you, and you have to let them know that this is a safe place and I am your friend and I want to listen to you. And sometimes if it takes them talking all day long, that's okay, because if they try to attack, if you try to give an assignment and they weren't able to accomplish it anyway, then you didn't accomplish anything. You really weren't successful with any of the lessons that you were trying to do. So when it comes back to it, yes, student behavior does affect academic performance today, and it probably will continue to be that way until we as educators, administrators, realize that the children sitting in front of us are not the ones that, I'm going to just put it this way, not the ones that we had before the pandemic. Now they're saying that there's still a lot of um, backlash from the pandemic as far as emotional outsets is concerned and behavior is concerned. And if that's the case, then we still need to deal with that. We just not It's not business as usual. We cannot go back to business as usual. It's not, I don't think it ever is going to happen. We're going to have to tap into these children and students and teach them at where they are. So if Johnny comes in on Monday morning and he's not ready to learn, he's not ready to pick up a pencil, that's all right. That's all right. Because what if he did pick up a pencil and he did do an assignment, and most likely would not be correct in any way, because he wouldn't have been able to concentrate on it. He wouldn't have been able to concentrate on it. So this is something that's going to be ongoing. I think as the schools go back into session in August and September, they need to have a fantastic plan in place. There needs to be a plan in place as to how to work with students. Classroom management, you may have to do something on classroom management. It was at one time we talked about children being able to have go to those classrooms where they can just sit alone and be by themselves. And of course, somebody was in there monitoring the classroom. But it was a place where they could go, where they felt safe, where they felt they were not pressured to perform, they were not pressured to talk. But basically, if you have those kind of classrooms or some space in your building for children to go, then that's good. That's good, because it's going to take a minute to bring them back to where they were before the pandemic. It's going to take a minute to bring them back from where they were last, in the spring of 2024. And it's not going to happen overnight. Just a word for the wise. Keep it going, and just continue to be very thoughtful about our children, be concerned, because they have some real issues. They have more adult issues than I've ever seen before. And unfortunately, that's not good, because they're not ready to be adults. They're still children. I don't care if they're 14, 15, 16. They should still be acting as they're still children, adolescents, middle grade, so on and so forth. And we have to treat them as such and not give them such heavy burdens to bear on a regular basis. Well, this is Aurelia Davis coming to you on July 5th. Like, again, thanks for all of the birthday wishes. I really enjoyed them. I really enjoyed my birthday. I didn't do anything. I rested. I rested, and the rest was good. It was real good. And coming weeks and months, I'm going to be doing some more resting. But I'm never going to leave the subject of education alone, because this is my passion. I'm very passionate about teachers. I'm very passionate about students, and just keep doing what you're doing. You are making a difference in somebody's life. This is Aurelia Davis, Educator's Educator. Talk to you later. Take care. Bye-bye.